I bought this bike for $575 and just 2 days after I sold it for $830. I'm flipping bikes until I can afford my dream bike, and in this video I'm going to show you exactly how I attempted to profit with this bike. This is flip number 3 on my journey to get a brand new Specialized Epic, and so far my first 2 flips have earned me $610, which I'm putting towards this bike. Stick around till the end because I'm going to show you a ranking of this bike compared to the last ones, the total profit breakdown, and exactly what almost went wrong when I tried flipping this bike. The rules for this challenge are simple. Every flip funds the next one. The only way I can make money is from selling the bike or from selling the parts, and all of the cost of fixes or trying to clean up the bike will cut into my profit in the end. To have a good start to this challenge, I'm going to use all of the money that I earned from my past 2 flips in this series. With my past 2 flips, this gives me a combined profit of $610 that I can spend on this bike. The bike that I ended up finding for this video is this 2023 Salsa Rangefinder. You can usually find these bikes going for around $900 used, and because this bike is a 2023, it makes it a really good deal for the price I got it at. This bike has some great components such as an 11-speed Dior drivetrain, it has Tektro brakes, and it has an air suspension front fork, which is pretty good for the price. Along with this, it has 29-inch wheels, and the best feature about this bike compared to my last flip is this one has a dropper post. Some other great parts of this bike is that it's really simple. The only complicated part is the dropper post, so it'll be really easy to sell. This is the part where I get the most questions, and this is when I try to find the bikes to buy in the first place. The first thing that I always do is search something up on Marketplace that's within 10 miles from me, and I usually search for just a mountain bike. Secondly, I set my search budget to whatever I need it to be. For this case, I had to make it $600. Next, I look for a listing with crappy photos and a crappy description, and this is just because it means the seller didn't put much effort in, so I can probably haggle them down. With all of this in mind, I almost instantly found this bike too. One of the main tricks I always look for whenever I find my bikes is to see that they're posted recently. For this specific bike, I found it within about an hour of it being listed, and I think that's how I got the deal. This is usually because if I think it's a good deal and I saw it was listed an hour ago, I know that other people probably were going to message later, but because I found it early, that means I get it. For this specific bike, I saw it had like kind of a crappy description and the photos weren't the best, so I knew that there was room for improvement. And along with that, I live in Austin, and this bike is about an hour and a half away. So I knew if I brought this bike back into Austin, there would be more people that'd be interested in buying it because it's close. With all of this in mind, I sent a couple of messages and we met up on a time and place, and I went to go buy it. Alright, so I didn't film the rest, but basically all I did is just ride the bike around and make sure everything worked. I made sure the gears shifted smoothly, the dropper post worked, and everything was flawless before I actually bought it. Right after this, we had already negotiated on $575 is the price that I was going to buy it at, so I just ended up Venmoing him and we were good to go. The one downside to buying this bike is that it was about an hour away from my house opposed to the last bike flip that was only 30 minutes, and I usually try and find something that's even closer, but this deal was too good to pass up. Alright, so once I got home, the first thing I did is clean it with my own bike wash, Summit Bike Wash, and this is kind of cheating because this won't cut into my profits at all as it's my own company. And if you want to try this out for yourself, you can head over to summitbikewash.com and give it a try. When I clean my bikes, I make sure that I get all the small parts and areas because it makes all the difference when people see it in person. I also make sure to lubricate the suspension, the gears, and the dropper post so that when the new buyer comes to get the bike, it rides nice and smooth. After cleaning this bike, I set it up for myself, and all that I really changed is I removed the door disc, took off the reflectors, and adjusted the seat height and the front suspension pressure for my liking. Taking off the reflectors and the door disc makes it a clean slate for the next buyer, and so it makes them more motivated to buy it. Starting with the last flip, every bike in this series I'm going to be ranking on a scale from 1 to 10 in 3 different categories. The first category is the wheelie and jump category. Compared to the last bike that I ranked, this also has a way better front suspension fork, but it still doesn't have the rebound adjustment, so it's not that good. This has got to be the best wheeling bike that I've ever tried though because of these huge wheels. Also, compared to the 2 other bikes I had in this series, this is hands down the best wheeling bike I've ever seen. They're really heavy, and usually that's a downside to mountain biking, but especially for these wheelies, it makes it very good. It did feel pretty stiff though on the trails whenever I was doing the jumps and going up the stairs, so I overall give it a 7 out of 10. Next we have the looks category. This bike has a crazy color, but I think everyone will have different opinions on it. I personally think it's a little bit too loud and it'll make selling it a bit harder. One thing I do really like is that it has black stanchions on the front fork, unlike the last bike that I had, which had silver stanchions, which I think look way worse. So I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. And then finally, I have the value category, and I think this bike gets a 5 out of 10 because it was $575, and compared compared to the last bike I did, it's probably not as good of a deal. Alright, so compared to the last bike that I had, this bike got an 18 out of 30, and the Specialized got a 21 out of 30. So this ranks at number 2 in my series. Alright, so now it's time to see how much I can actually get for this bike. After doing my ranking, I did one more cleaning because it got muddy from that, and then right after that became the most important part, which is the photos. Every time I take photos of my bikes, I make sure I use the 3x zoom lens because it makes the photo look way more professional, and I also make sure to show any part of the bike that is scratched or damaged. In this case, this bike was in perfect condition, so I didn't have to do that. The difference between using the 1x, 0.5x, or 3x camera on your phone can make people scroll past your listings very easily, so that's why I used in the more zoomed in lens. It gives the background more blur and it just makes it look more professional. As far as the listing is concerned, I just write some basic information on the bike and I always put a link at the bottom to the bike's build. After this listing was all done, all I had to do is sit back and wait, and it didn't take long to sell. Within 2 days, I ended up selling this bike for $830, which is a $255 profit. Whenever I found the buyer, it was pretty easy to convince them to get the bike. They asked a few questions about the suspension and a couple of other small things, but besides that, I really didn't have to say much. And then just like that, we got to meet up after 2 days. I had this bike originally listed for $900, and this guy had offered me $800, but because he said I would need to drive him the bike because he couldn't pick it up, he said he would give me $830 for it, so that's what I did. What's going on? Oh, I'm just gonna tank that. Nice to meet you. I'm August. Oh, jeez. I'm gonna just take the socks off later.
Would you remind? I've never had a dropper.
Oh, yeah.
So you hold it and then just put weight on it?
Yes.
Wanting it. And it's okay that I take it for a test ride? Let me give you
Yeah, go for it. No worries at all. Appreciate it.
Yeah. But, oh man, this is technology, dude.
Yeah, right? I know, right? It's
awesome.
Man.
Well, I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you. Once I pulled up, it was so easy talking to this guy, and I got to run him through every part of the bike that you might not know about. This means like the dropper post, the gears, the fork lockout, stuff like that. And yeah, besides that, so easy, and just like that, $255 profit. Alright, so finally, here's the price breakdown for the entire bike. First, it cost me $575 to go buy this bike. It cost me about 15 bucks in gas to go pick it up, and then $0 for soap and tools because I had everything on hand. So this brings my total to $590. Now, as far as the time that it took me to go get this bike, it took me 3 hours and 40 minutes for me to go buy the bike and for me to give it to the buyer. It took me about an hour to just clean it up and fix everything on it, and then it took me just about 30 minutes on Marketplace just messaging people back and forth and stuff like that. So in the very end, that makes my hourly profit $50 per hour. My last bike, which was the Specialized, I ended up earning $65 per hour, but still, this is such a good side hustle for how easy it is. Make sure you watch my next video because I'm going to use my combined profit for these past 3 flips to buy a new bike that's even better. And hopefully by the end, I can actually afford my dream bike, which is the Specialized Epic. Also, make sure you head over to summitbikewash.com to get your new waterless wash or our standard high foaming wash.